r/AskReddit by Redmond ETS. Who made the stupidest and most embarrassing mistake in history? I've scrolled for a while and haven't seen anything about Mao Zedong ordering an eradication of sparrows from China in 1959. Sparrows were believed to be pests that ate grain, so the authorities started a campaign to eradicate them, along with some other perceived pests. The eradication worked. Unfortunately, the sparrows, while they do eat some grain, also play a critical role in controlling the insect pests that cause crop disasters of a biblical scale. The next year, locusts boomed without their sparrow predator and took the crops, initiating a famine that killed 15 million people. China ended up having to import sparrows from the Soviet Union. There's another stupid thing he did. He wanted to increase the area of the land for crops and business. What he did is to reroute the river into a straight line by making the workers dig a way for it. They managed to dig it all the way, but when they opened the dam for the river, the water just gets absorbed in the soil because the land they dig through is really dry. I think it became another cause of famine. During the Spanish-American War, the US decided to take Guam, so they showed up with a bunch of gunships and fired a warning shot to say this is your last chance to surrender peacefully. There was no response. Then, a small Spanish ship started rowing up to the American fleet, and when they got there, a representative said, "Hi, welcome to Guam. We saw that you fired your guns to salute us and we would have saluted you back, but unfortunately we ran out of gunpowder and nobody has been by to restock us." Nobody told Guam that the United States and Spain were at war. When the Americans informed the representative that they were at war and were there to conquer this island, they asked again if Guam would like to surrender. The representative, having already given away that they had no gunpowder, agreed to surrender. Edit. Thank you guys all so much for the likes. It really brightened my day. My personal favorite is New Zealand Prime Minister Robert Muldoon getting drunk in his office one night and then calling a snap election. 2 weeks later, his government was voted out of office. Hygelaicus. He was an actor performing the play Orestes by the famous playwright Euripides. In the dramatic climax, the king he was playing lay dying and is supposed to say, "After the storm I see again a calm sea," as he expires. He mispronounced the word galn as gallon, changing the line to "After the storm I see again a weasel." This embarrassing mistake happened in 408 BC. It is the only thing we know about Hygelaicus. It was so humiliating and so widely mocked that we're still talking about it 2,431 years later. Whoever lost Special Order 191? In 1862, during the American Civil War, Robert E. Lee decides to invade the Union. His outnumbered army is secretly marching in several divided columns into Maryland to attack Washington, D.C. He sends out a secret order to his top commanders, detailing where and when everyone should be during the march. A few days later, a Union soldier finds a couple of cigars lying in a field, with a copy of these orders wrapped around them. Some idiot had dropped it. The item gets passed up the chain of command to Union General McClellan himself, who proudly proclaims, "Here is a paper with which, if I cannot whip Bobby Lee, I will be willing to go home." McClellan does next to nothing until the Battle of Antietam, where he and his 75,000 men do not whip Lee and his 38,000. In fact, a third of them receive no orders from McClellan at all. The battle ends in a draw and Lee escapes back to the south. McClellan does go home though, because Lincoln fires him. The guys that accidentally brought down the Berlin Wall by declaring at a press conference that the right of freedom to travel was effective immediately, which was not at all what the GDR's political party had wanted. Which led to thousands of people rushing to and overwhelming the borders, and in the end to the reunification of Germany. It was a small mistake but with a great outcome. Gunter Schabowski. And yeah, this would be my answer as well. Robert Akiho. Killed millions and reduced the average IQ by nearly 3 for wrongly proclaiming lead's safe to use in paints, cars, etc. One theory of why there were so many serial killers in the 70s and 80s is leaded gasoline causing brain damage. Franz Ferdinand's lead driver that took a wrong turn on the way to the hospital to see victims of the original assassination attempt on the Archduke. They inadvertently brought Ferdinand directly to his assassin, leading to, well, the 20th and 21st centuries of war and death. The captain of U-1206. During World War II, it was fitted with a high-pressure toilet system that was so complex flushing it required a trained technician to do it. So one day it was out on war patrol when the captain needs to use it. Unfortunately, the number 2 he pinched off was of considerable stench, so out of embarrassment, he attempts to operate the flushing mechanism himself. Unfortunately, he botches up the sequence of valves needed to successfully operate it, and ends up causing water to leak onto the batteries used to power the ship whilst underwater, which causes the ship to begin to fill up with cyanide gas, and as a result they have to surface to recirculate the air out. To add insult to injury, this all takes place off the coast of Scotland and are promptly spotted by our RAF Coastal Command, who then proceed to send a welcoming committee, and the captain is forced to order the ship scuttled. 4 crewmen die, the rest captured. All as a result of the captain not wanting to admit he did a stinky poo. The Decca Records executive who decided that the Beatles were not worth signing. That same executive later also rejected Jimi Hendrix. Thomas Midgley Jr. made 2 of the biggest. He was one of the early pioneers of chlorofluorocarbons, compounds that became widely used in industry, and which were destroying the ozone layer. He also invented leaded gasoline and insisted that it was safe to use. Russia selling Alaska for $7.2 million. 2 cents an acre. Napoleon and the Steam Engine. A ship that sails by bonfires under its decks. Away with you, visionist. If not for his short-sightedness, we would likely see French be the dominant language in the West. Those responsible for the loss of a mission to Mars in the mid-90s because a team didn't know it was supposed to be working in metric measurements. So the spaceship, all of its money, all of the planning, all of the anticipated data, poof, gone because of a stupid mistake that should have been caught by a process. Mars Climate Orbiter, the 23rd of September, 1999. I was among the large group of people at NASA Ames watching the mission, a mix of civil servants, contractors, and scientists who actually worked on the project. When Mission Control lost contact, the pall that descended over that room was like nothing I'd ever seen. Grown men cried. Several, in fact. You would have thought San Francisco had been nuked. During the Revolutionary War in the United States, I think that's the proper war's name, a spy scouted and saw George Washington crossing the Delaware River. He tried bringing the report to his commanding officer, who waved him off because he was in the middle of a poker game. Said commanding officer was found dead the next day with the report still in his coat pocket. Chernobyl was pretty bad. That was a series of awful decisions, not just one though. Hitler invading Russia. We have a printout in the copy room at work that says, "Whatever you messed up today, at least you weren't driving this ship." David Cameron was responsible for Brexit because he wanted to try win over a few nutters in his own party and ended up messing an entire country for generations. In all seriousness, I think the stupidest and most embarrassing mistake in history is one that wasn't made, but came very close to taking place. Most people know something about the Challenger disaster, the space shuttle that blew up during launch because the bureaucratic higher-ups had ignored critical warnings given by the engineers. Most people know that, because of the schoolteacher in a space program putting a teacher on that shuttle, the launch was being watched live by countless young children across the nation. What many people do not know though, is that they nearly put Carol Spinney, a puppeteer, on board in full costume as part of the program. Spinney was at the time the actor who portrayed the character of Big Bird from Sesame Street. So NASA came this close to not only killing an entire crew of astronauts in front of millions of children, but also killing Big Bird in the process. That would have made the whole JFK debacle look like spilling milk. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.